Welcome back. All right, so we're going to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets. I talked about the Vegas Golden Knights earlier. Now we're going to talk about a team that's kind of at the other end of the spectrum. So the Columbus Blue Jackets finished last season 25, I should say, 48-9, 31st overall in the NHL. And it was a rough season right from the start until the finish, and it was ugly. So I can't see them having a season that bad again. And Jarmo in the offseason decided to basically put his cards all in on being able to turn this thing around and at least get them back into the mix for a playoff spot. We'll see how it turns out for them. They scored 2.6 goals per game. They allowed 4.01 goals per game. It was awful. It was bad, and we'll get into how the advanced stats show they were just one of the unluckiest teams in the NHL. So their power play numbers, not great, 18.3%. The penalty kill, right there in the not great category, 75.1%. The last time they made the playoffs was 2020. Now, when we get into the last time they won a round, this is where it gets kind of tricky. So, 2020, they won in the qualifying round. They then lost in round one. So, officially, the qualifying round stats count as playoff stats. Some sites qualify it as making the playoffs if you were in the qualifying round, and some don't. The NHL officially does and doesn't recognize those as playoff games, because they will say certain teams missed the playoffs in 2020 by losing in the qualifying round. So I'm just saying that if you want to say, well, they lost in the first round of what was the playoffs, all right, so the last time they won the runaround was 2019. That was the famous, or infamous, depending on your perspective, upset victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning before they bowed out in round two. So for Columbus, it's about getting back to that underdog status and being a wild card team. That ideally would be their spot, right? I mean, if they could finish first in the division, great. But coming off the 25-48-9 record, I don't expect a New Jersey Devils type turnaround here. So this is a team that's never won the Cup. And this is a team that has had a hard time finding their relevance. They're superstar players. There are various reasons why Columbus, I would think, would be 32nd in terms of popularity. I know on the channel when I post videos and all this, I know that Columbus is not a draw. That may change, and that may change soon. So their cap space, they still have cap space according to Cap Friendly, $4,729,167, which is smart. Having cap space in a flat cap era means you have the ability to make trades that other teams don't. So if Columbus finds themselves in a position where they can potentially get into a wild card spot, they can take on a contract another team's trying to get rid of and solidify their roster a little bit more without worrying about cap space going forward. So their top scorers, Johnny Gaudreau, who a year ago signed with the Columbus Blue Jackets, shockingly signed with Columbus. The first shock was him deciding not to return to Calgary. And the second one was not signing with the New Jersey Devils, which was the rumor that either New Jersey, the Islanders, Rangers, somebody in New York was going to get him. Nope, signs with Columbus and then had an off year. 80 games, 21 goals, 53 assists, 74 points. Now, I expect a bounce back from Johnny. I do. I expect him to be closer to 30 goals. I expect him to be closer to 85 to 90 points, but we'll see if he does bounce back. Patrick Laine, 55 games played. He needs to play a full season. 22 goals, 30 assists, 52 points. Laine's passing game's gotten better in recent seasons, but the goal scoring isn't where I think he would want it to be. When he came into the league, it looked like he was going to be a perennial 40 to 50 goal scorer, and it really hasn't turned out that way, so we'll see if it changes this year. Boone Jenner, 68 games, 26 goals, 19 assists, 45 points. So again, another key guy that missed some games with injury, which was the storyline with Columbus all season long. Roslovic played 77 games, an up-and-down season for him, 11 goals, 33 assists for 44 points. Roslovic's a player that I've liked a lot over the years, but yeah, that wasn't a great year for him. Kent Johnson, 79 games as a rookie, 16 goals, 24 assists, 40 points. I have talked up Johnson. I'll do it again here. The guy's going to be very good. He's a very good two-way forward and is part of a pretty promising future for a Columbus team that, again, if the injuries stay under control this year and if the young guys all click, this team could win its share of games. The goaltending was an issue, and what stands out, too, is that Korpisalo is at the top of the list here, and he's gone. He was traded to L.A., now he's in Ottawa. So 28 games played with Columbus by Korpisalo, an 11-11-3 record, .913 save percentage before the trade. So Korpisalo is having a decent year, which made him more tradable, but also Merzlikins' contract makes him virtually untradeable at this point. Played 30 games overall, record of 7-18-2, 876 save percentage. So when you're looking for the key to this team turning it around, it's goaltending. They need more consistency in net. They also, again, need fewer injuries, and they need the defense to be healthy. But Tarasov didn't have a great year either. 17 games of 4-11-1 record, 892 save percentage. He's expected to be the backup to Merzlikins this year. And so, yeah, Tarasov's been waiting for his chance to be the backup. This appears to be it. We'll see how things go for him. His numbers were better than Elvis's, but still, they needed better goaltending than what they got other than when Korpisalo was in net. Hutchinson ended up playing 16 games, had a record of 2-6-3, 877 save percentage, so not fantastic there either. Gillies played 3 games, a 1-1 record, 864 save percentage. And Jet Greaves got into one game. He lost that game, but recorded a 939 save percentage in that game. So Greaves is there as well. It'll be between Tarasov and Greaves, it would appear, for the backup job, and we'll see how it goes. So the channel is not optimistic that the changes are going to make things better. 2%, first or second. So 2% of people, I'm assuming those are Columbus fans, or just people that say, I hate polls, I'm just going to put them at first or second. Throw the whole thing off. 8% believe third or fourth is possible for Columbus this year. 42% had them at fifth or sixth. 48% of the vote had them at 7th or 8th. So 90% of the vote had Columbus 5th or lower, which means probably 90% of the channel does not see Columbus as a playoff team. And, fair enough. We'll see whether or not the changes made this offseason will help them get to that goal. Their hits leader was Sean Corrali, 187. He was pretty good his first season in Columbus after leaving Boston. Block shots, Peak led there with 197. So Peak, a good shot blocker. Posts, Patrick Laine led there with 7 posts. So not a lot. And again, looking at who leads it with posts, Laine's 7. The one thing that stands out is that's only in 55 games. So over an 82-game schedule, maybe you would have hit 10 or more. But this is going to be an interesting season because you get to the next one category on this board, and I kind of had to split it. I had to say, you know what? Fantilli's the next one up front. Yurchek's the next one on the blue line. If both players can come in and play this year and play well, play important minutes, again, Columbus could be a lot better than expected. Fantasy sleeper, I went with Texier. Texier's returning. Texier's got a good work ethic. He missed last season. He went overseas. Now he's back. And if a year overseas has rejuvenated him, he could score his share of points, right? Columbus could definitely use more goals. Maybe Texier puts up 35 to 40 points. The MVP, I went with Zach Werenski in the MVP category. So for me, having Zach Werenski as the MVP comes down to, I know Johnny Gaudreau's the highest paid player, but to me, Werenski coming back, if he can play like we know he can, it can make a huge difference. You look at the additions to this roster or returning Werenski, this blue line's going to look completely different than the one that had its struggles this past season. Now, schedule-wise, the schedule maker has kind of given them a bit of a boost out of the gate. So in October, 5 of their first 6 games are at home. If they can assert themselves at home and get off to a good start, that's a big part of it. Because last season, it was definitely that they got off to the rough start, and they really never recovered from that rough start. They were absolutely just not able to do so. All the injuries piled up, and it was loss after loss after loss. And, eventually that adds up. So the 25 wins in 82 games, yeah, they can't get off to a slow start, or they might get into that category again. So the additions, again, I've got Texier there. It's an asterisk because technically he's not added to the organization, but he's returning from overseas. So we'll see what he provides up front. But they've also added Severson and Provorov in very highly publicized trades in the offseason. We know Severson can be good. We know Severson can't be overplayed. We know Provorov can be good. We know Provorov's had a hard time finding a consistent defense partner in Philly. So they'll need to find him a consistent defense partner who helps to accentuate the best parts of his game and hide some of the flaws with Provorov. And if they can do that, then these guys could be big difference makers. Exits, Bayreuther, depth defenseman, Lane Peterson, depth forward, and 2 goaltenders, Hutchinson and Gillies. So all of the big name players in Columbus stay. There's always the discussion about who does want to play in Columbus, who doesn't want to play in Columbus, and all that. I think that gets overblown a bit. I do. I understand there are players who don't necessarily want to go to Columbus, but I think that number isn't nearly as high as some people may try to make it sound. We're seeing that right now with Winnipeg, with Calgary. We've seen that with Buffalo in previous seasons. You're always going to be able to find players to play on your team. It's just a matter of building up a reputation as, a team that treats your players well. It's not all just about pay. It's about treating your players with respect and treating them well. And I think Columbus has done that. However, this kind of segues into the fact they've hired Mike Babcock. And we have no idea. Maybe Mike Babcock's turned over a new leaf. Maybe he'll be a fantastic coach for this team. And between the coaching change, the defensive changes, and just getting your players healthy and having a full roster, maybe Columbus has a turnaround similar to what New Jersey did this past season. But a lot's going to have to fall their way, including a good start. So when you look at a few key players that missed a lot of games, Laine missed 27, as previously mentioned. Boquist missed 36 on the blue line. Chinakhov, who was absolutely snake-bit with getting goals the year before, this past season snake-bit when it came to injuries, 52 games played. And Werenski missed 69 games with injury. So getting healthy is a big part of the storyline for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Marchenko stands out as a player who got 21 goals in only 59 games, but he also only had 4 assists. So if Marchenko can still score goals at the same rate that he did last season and chip in some assists, Marchenko could be a huge points producer for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And again, they're a team that could use that. Kekalainen, I think, is on the hot seat. I've got it here on the board with a question mark. I think he is. He's definitely put a lot on the line in making these additions, bringing in a new coach, and trying to turn things around on a team that has underachieved for a bit here. 2019-2020, before they got that qualifying round victory over Toronto, they weren't having a great season. They were having an okay season. The year that followed, they were 18, 26, and 12, playing, of course, just in the divisional games, that 56-game schedule. And then last season, before the 2022-2023 season, which was 2021-2022, they were 37, 38, and 7. So this is 3 years that Columbus has been mediocre to bad. And so trying to turn this around is not easy. And I don't know if Severson, Provorov, and a returning Texier necessarily make a huge difference. However, Juracek, Fantilli, and improving Kent Johnson, and maybe some bounce-back years from young players, it could absolutely help. So when we look at guys who are restricted free agents next summer, it's an extensive list with Columbus. And I don't even have everybody up here, just the ones that I felt were of note. Kent Johnson, Kirill Marchenko, so we know they're going to get paid. And the earlier you sign Johnson, the cheaper it should be, because I think Johnson's going to have a very good year. His asking price is only going to go up. Bemstrom, who I thought had a good year at points, but again, finishing hasn't been where I think he or the team would want it to be. Jake Bean, who missed most of last season with injury. He's a restricted free agent this summer. Blankenberg, who had his injury issues too. Sillinger, who had a disastrous season and will be looking to put that behind him. So Sillinger might be a dark horse as well when you're looking at fantasy numbers, just because he can't be as bad as he was last season. He can't be. See, now I've said it. Maybe he will be. And Chinakhov. Again, Chinakhov with the injury issues and with the amount of depth with Columbus, he's going to be fighting for a job this fall. I think Chinakhov should make the roster. And Chinakhov, if he's healthy and he plays the way that he did a couple years ago, he could be good for as many as, say, 15 goals in the season, maybe 20, that kind of number. But all these guys are restricted free agents next summer. There should be some oomph in their game, and definitely that effort should be high because they want to get paid. Players want to get paid. You've got to play like you want to get paid. So when we look at the advanced stats, and I haven't done the advanced stats in any of the other previews, but I wanted to mention it with Columbus because it really shows just how unlucky they were, and then there's the bad side of it as well. So with expected goals, so this is where you're looking at high danger situations and everything, and how many goals should they have had with these situations? They were 21.08 goals below what the expected would have been. And then you look at expected goals against. So this is what goalies should save and the defense should prevent. 17.8 to above. So the goal differential was 38.9 below what it should have been according to the advanced statistics. So that doesn't bring them into the playoffs, but it makes them a lot better if their goal differential had been about 39 goals better than what it was, right? So everything conspired against them. They had some iffy goaltending. They had some bad defense, in part due to injuries. They had some young players playing roles that I don't think they were necessarily ready for as well. It really was a perfect storm kind of season, a term I don't like to throw around often because it gets overused, but it feels like in this case, yeah, it kind of was, right? For Columbus, they can't be this bad again, but can they get to the playoffs? 90% of the channel vote says no. I'm not going to say yes because, last year I said they make the playoffs. If one notices, I really haven't been predicting who does or doesn't make the playoffs. I'm letting the channel dictate where they think everybody's going to finish. But for Columbus, a lot has to fall their way for them to get back above the playoff line in what should be a very difficult East to make the playoffs. You've got an improving Buffalo team. You've got Ottawa and Detroit trying to get above that line. And you've still got some really, really good teams who are not going to want to drop out of the playoffs either. So it is a tough road ahead for Columbus in one of, if not the toughest division in the National Hockey League. It's a whole debate we can have at another time. Is the Metro still the toughest? Is it now the Atlantic? What happened to the Central? These kinds of discussions. But let me know your thoughts regarding the Columbus Blue Jackets in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.